Hello guys, Ancient Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco and welcome to my channel. And as for this video, we finally have the review of the Adrenalin 23.5.1 drivers. And I always make this mistake, it's 25.3.1.
Who?
A lot of people.
And as I say in all my videos, 25 is the year 2025, 3 is the month March, and 1 is the revision in that same month, so the first revision of March. And in case you're just watching this video and you don't really know about the market and so on, the RX 9070 XT just released a couple of days ago, and I have the review video where I test the 9070 XT versus the 7900 XT, 7900 XTX, and RTX 4080 Super, and I also have this video where I test the 9070 XT versus the 7800 XT and 4070 Super as well. I have the unboxing too, and this is all to say that these new drivers are the first drivers for these cards, for the RX 9070 series, and they bring lots of new things. They bring several new things for the 7000 series and even for the 6000 series, but they especially bring lots of new things for the 9000 series. But as always, let's start with the release notes. Firstly, we have new product support with AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT, like I told you, AMD Radeon RX 9070, the non-XT version, AMD Radeon RX 7650 GRE, which is a new card, basically just a 7600 with another name and different clocks, AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395, one of those that I really want to test, AMD Ryzen AI 5 Pro 350, then the AMD Ryzen AI Pro 350, AMD Ryzen AI 5 340, then the 7 350, and so on, lots of those. The AMD Ryzen 9 9955HX, the 9850HX, and the 9955 Ajax 3D, and the 9955 Ajax 3D, which is basically repeated, so it's the same CPU, but yeah. Basically, we now have the 3D CPUs with 3D cache for laptops as well, and that's a very nice thing, especially since the CPU part is usually where the laptops fail, not the GPU one. At least those gaming laptops. AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution 4, AMD FSR4, support is exclusively on AMD Radeon RX 9070 series graphics cards, and according to Hardware Unboxed, this is because FSR4 uses FP8 processing, which is something, it's all AI processing, okay, but FP8 processing in the instructions, I believe, is something that is new to the 9000 series. So even though the RX 7000 series do have AI accelerators, they don't really have FP8 instructions, and that's why I believe AMD is having a tough time making FSR4 work with the 7000 series. Yeah. AMD FSR4 features a new upgrade toggle in AMD Software Adrenalin Edition that automatically upgrades supported games that have built-in AMD FSR 3.1 supports to use the new machine learning based AMD FSR4 upscaling algorithm. And yeah, there are several new things, even in terms of UI and so on. But FSR4, it's basically that. For games that already support FSR 3.1 and are whitelisted by AMD drivers, all you have to do is just go there, select FSR4 and you're good to go. That's all. Now we have another interesting thing that works for AMD RX 6000, 7000 and 9000 series. AFMF 2.1, AMD Fluid Motion Frames 2.1. So let's dive into it. But before, today's sponsor. Today's video sponsor is GVG Mall, bringing you lots of software deals like Windows 10, Windows 11, Office 2019 or 2021 with a new Windows 11 design, and for all of these you can use my SKG discount code for 30% off, getting a Windows 11 serial key for $22 and a Windows 10 one for only $15. Then use the key on your Windows settings and you'll have an activated system. So AFMF 2.1. Improved frame generation image quality with reduced ghosting and better temporal tracking, and support for AMD Radeon RX 6000, 7000 and 9070 series graphics cards, and even the AMD Ryzen AI 300 series processors, which is quite nice. And now we have some new things as well, with AI enhanced features in AMD Software Adrenalin Edition, and again support is exclusively on AMD Radeon 9070 series graphics cards. With AMD Chat. AMD Chat is a GPU accelerated local offline chatbot with text and image generation capabilities. AMD Chat can answer common questions about users' AMD hardware and enable key features in AMD Software Adrenalin Edition. Let's say that you want to know something or you want to generate an image, you can just go to the AMD Adrenalin software. If you have a 9070 XT or a 9070, you can just go there and say like, generate me an image of a guy holding a GPU, and the software will generate an image. By the way, AMD Chat takes up to 25 gigabytes, but at least it is everything offline, so you don't really need an online connection. You can just go there, ask what you want. For example, you can just drag and drop documents as well, do several things, and AMD Chat is actually interesting in some scenarios, and it is very nice to have it on the AMD Software Adrenalin Edition. And by the way, it is just an optional installation. You don't really have to install it if you don't want to. Then we have another interesting new thing, which is AMD Image Inspector. AMD Image Inspector leverages AI to help AMD accelerate game quality improvements by capturing text and image diagnostic data. And I actually spoke with the new head of the software division a couple of months ago, and they told me that the AMD Image Inspector actually comes from a thing that they already had inside for testing. So they kind of had the Image Inspector already for testing on their builds in order to see which games had issues, which games didn't really have issues in terms of AI. They used AI as well, and now they are bringing this in a way easier to use version and way more common version to the common people, to us. This serves the purpose of, for example, if you are having corruption when playing Counter-Strike 2, when playing any other game, corruption, pixelation, things that shouldn't be happening on that specific game, you can enable AMD Image Inspector, and even if you don't really notice it, the Image Inspector will record that you were having issues, pixelation, gray tones, whatever. It will record that you were having issues with that certain game in that certain amount, in that specific build that you have, and if you want to, you can send that data to AMD in order for them to improve or fix the issue as soon as they can. And this is especially useful because you'll send the exact data of the issue instead of just going to the AMD bug report tool, specifying the things that are happening. Yeah, you just go there and you send this to AMD and they have the exact issue that happened, where it happened, in which game, in which build, everything done. Way easier for them to just go there and correct the problem. So this is a very, very nice thing. And now we have one of the things that I've been asking for several years, and I'm not even joking, several years, and AMD finally delivered. AMD Install Manager. AMD Install Manager is a new application that easily manages your AMD-specific software installations. AMD Install Manager supports the installation of our new AMD Chat and the latest AMD graphics and chipset drivers. Users now have the option to automatically keep software up to date as well, allowing the AMD Install Manager to update their installed drivers and software on the fly. So now we have this install manager that comes installed with the drivers, and even the drivers, as you are installing the GPU drivers, it comes with a manager already, and it tells you, or at least it asks you, if you go there and select the manual installation, if you really want to install, let's say, the privacy view, the AMD chat, if you want to install the chipset drivers or update them as well, and you can do that on the fly. So instead of having to go install the GPU drivers and from time to time remember to check if there are new chipset drivers or not, you now have the AMD Drivers Manager that will, on the fly when you are installing the drivers, will tell you if you want to install the chipset drivers or not, or if you want to update them. And even after the installation, it will kind of give you a notification in case there are new drivers or new chipset drivers and so on. So this is a thing that I've been asking for years, and it has finally been done. Great job. Another very interesting thing is AMD Radeon Image Sharpening 2. Support is again exclusively on the AMD Radeon 9070 series graphics cards because it uses AI, I believe, now updated to provide stronger, more responsive sharpening in more use cases. AMD Image Sharpening 2 can now apply sharpening to games, videos, or across the entire desktop. So if you just want a sharpening effect across your videos and so on without upscaling, with video upscaling and so on, yeah, you can just do it. Radeon image sharpening now works everywhere, basically everywhere in your computer. It is supposed to be much better. I'll be testing it in the next coming days because you guys are giving me a lot of work. So I just made 3 videos in 3 days or 2 days. Now I'm making the driver's review, I'm making a lot of things. So you guys are really pumping things out and I have so many things to do. But yeah, I really enjoy what I do, so it's not an issue, yeah. And the monitor just went down. Other highlights as well with new game support for Fragpunk and Split Fiction, AMD ROCm on WSL for AMD Radeon RX 7000 series, so something new for the 7000 series, with official support for Windows subsystem for Linux, WSL2, enables users with supported hardware to run workloads with AMD ROCm software on a Windows system, eliminating the need for dual boot setups. Official support for Llama 3 8B via VLLM, and Stable Diffusion 3 models. Support for Hugging Face transformers and support for Ubuntu 24.04. And there's even more on top of that. AI performance improvements on AMD Radeon RX 7000 series. Performance improvements to the following use cases. Up to 70% improvement on Adobe Lightroom AI Enhanced Detail, up to 13% improvement on Adobe Lightroom Denoise, up to 40% improvement with Topaz Photo AI Subtest, and up to 10% improvement on DaVinci Resolve AI cases. And again, this is not for the new cards. This is just a software update. We have many increases for cards that we already have. Cards that were already quite decent in AI benchmarks, they're even better now, which is really great. Good job AMD again. And now for the developer updates, with new AMD machine-readable GPU instruction set architectures, ISAs, specifications updated to support AMD RDNA 4 and RDNA 3.5 architecture graphics cards. New open-source AMD Advanced Interactive Streaming, ASI, SDK release, designed for the ground up to transform streaming from passive viewing into an immersive experience, and AMD Advanced Media Framework, AMF, SDK updates. We also have AMD Radeon Developer Tool Suite, RDTS updates with support for AMD Radeon RX 9000 series graphics cards coming soon. The RDTS includes the recently released Driver Experiments tool that enables low-level control over the behavior of the AMD Software Adrenalin Edition for developers. Stay tuned to the GPU Open News for the latest news for developers. So for developers that are going into the AMD or optimizing for AMD cards, or using AMD cards, this actually seems very nice. There are some of these things that I don't really understand, but in a general matter, it seems very nice. It seems that AMD is kind of approaching developers even more, giving them more tools to work with in order for them to optimize more for their cards as well, which is very nice. Very nice. AMD is definitely on the right path. Now we have expanded HyperRX support. With HyperTune support allows HyperRX to enable in-game technologies like AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution and AMD Radeon Anti-Lag 2, nothing new. Support has been added for Farming Simulator 25, Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl, and Silent Hill 2. We also have expanded Vulkan extension support, and yeah, you can click on the link in order to know more about the new depth clamp control. And on top of this all, we also have some very important fixed issues and improvements. Listen, HEVC encoding may not work as expected while using OBS Studio with Twitch Enhanced Broadcasting, another issue that was fixed. Intermittent driver timeout or crash may be observed while playing Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 on some graphics products such as the AMD Ryzen AI AGX 370. And talking about the Ryzen 9 AI AGX 370, look at this. This is the Asus ZenBook S16, a super thin and very light, or kind of weighing like 1.5 kilograms, and look at this. Crazy. It features an awesome design with ceramic aluminum, a 16 inches 3K 120Hz OLED display, touch sensitive by the way, and 6 speakers that deliver a very good sound. Trust me, it is awesome to hear some podcasts like Broken Silicon.
Well, I'm of two minds about that. On the one hand, Yes, I know it's meant for ARC.
It packs a Ryzen AI 9 Ajax 370, which features one of the best integrated graphics available, the Radeon 890M, that is more than enough for most competitive games nowadays, like Counter-Strike 2, Valorant and so on. And if you want it for AI workloads and so on, you have an NPU as well with up to 50 TOPS of AI performance, delivering much better performance for AI workloads such as image or video generation. And of course, if you are more on the standard side, you also have 12 cores and 24 threads for productivity. It also features USB 4 Type-C, audio jack, and even a standard SD port that comes really handy for people like me that do what I do. And if you're all about battery and security, you have an infrared camera for face unlock and up to 18 hours of battery life with supercharging included. So if you're interested, check it out in the link below. Now going back to the fixed issues. Lower than expected performance may be observed in Delta Force on Radeon RX 7000 series products. And I actually tested, this is one of the big things that people were complaining about, and some people said that with the 25.2.1 drivers, they stopped having issues with Delta Force. Some people said that they were still having issues, and it seems that it is fixed or at least improved right now. I didn't test, I was gonna test here, I believe, the Delta Force with these new drivers, so I don't really know if they were fixed or not. Sorry about that. Again, I have lots of work, lots of things in my mind. Just leave your comment in the comment section and let us know, the community, and maybe AMD as well, if Delta Force is fixed for your GPU configuration or not. Because there were some really odd issues with the frame pacing that were, well, game breaking in some scenarios, and it seems to be fixed for now, or at least improved. And the last fixed issue is intermittent stutter may be observed while playing Marvel Rivals when AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution 3 frame generation is enabled. So frame pacing was bad as well with intermittent stutters with FSR4 frame generation on Marvel Rivals, and it seems that this fixes it, so great. But as always, not everything is cotton candies and rainbows, so we also have known issues. As for the known issues, we have an intermittent crash of AMD Software Adrenalin Edition may be observed while playing Marvel Spider-Man 2 or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart with AMD Image Inspector enabled. Users experiencing this issue are recommended to disable the AMD Image Inspector as a temporary workaround. Lower than expected performance may be observed when using YouTube on Microsoft Edge web browser immediately after the driver install. Users experiencing this issue are recommended to restart Microsoft Edge and relaunch YouTube as a temporary workaround. Third-party tools that rely on our ADL SDK for detecting ROPS count will incorrectly report 64 ROPS, and we're looking to address this in a driver update post-launch. Incorrect gamma is exhibited while playing Counter-Strike 2 and using MSIA 8 times on Radeon 9070 series graphics products. I don't really know, I always use 4 times. AMD Software Adrenalin Edition may not accurately report AMD FSR4 enablement for Marvel Spider-Man 2, working fine here. Lower than expected performance may be observed while playing Assetto Corsa Competizione. Interesting because I tested this card, and while it wasn't that great actually on Assetto Corsa, it wasn't that bad either. But yeah, I was definitely expecting better performance, so I now know that this might be due to driver issues. Intermittent application crash may be observed in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle when settings are set to very ultra quality and path tracing is enabled. Users experiencing this issue are recommended to use the default ray tracing settings as a temporary workaround. After using the AMD Cleanup utility for Windows, the AMD Bug Report tool may appear intermittently during a new driver installation on AMD Ryzen 7000 and above series processors paired with AMD graphics products. And another one is, after completing a driver upgrade on certain laptops, users may experience intermittent failures for the integrated camera to start. Users experiencing this issue are recommended to use AMD Cleanup utility for Windows and use our previous recommended driver available here. And the last one is limitations for Windows subsystem for Linux. WSL2 support can be found here. And as you see, we have lots of known issues actually. But if you look to it on the bright side, or for it on the bright side, it is not that bad. It means that AMD know they have these issues and they are working on fixing them. And considering this is the first driver for the RX 9000 series, it is actually very nice. I've been playing a lot with my 9070 XT editing, playing, doing the day-to-day stuff, and so far so good. I didn't really encounter any issues, I believe, apart from my trying to overclock settings. When I was trying to overclock or to find the best overclock to me, I had some issues. I had some black screens and so on, but that's due to overclocking. That's due to me, not due to the drivers. Besides that, yeah, I guess I had a crash. I guess I had a crash with Marvel Spider-Man 2 when I was messing around with the ray tracing settings. But that's about it. Now to the goods and the bads, kind of the things that I found with these drivers, because there are some things that changed and some of them are not presented in the release notes. So here I am. We have lots of driver updates with tons of new games for FSR4. We have a list of games with FSR4. I believe that they are 30 right now. You can see them passing right now on the screen. AMD says that they will have up to 75 games to the end of the year, which seems quite nice, by the way. Then we have the software installation that, even without the driver manager, is different. Then we have the manager. If you have a 9070 XT or 9070, you can select to install or not the chat, the privacy view, and so on. For the other users, you can still choose to update or install chipset drivers with the GPU drivers, which is great, a very good addition. Chipset drivers or having outdated chipset drivers, is one of the biggest mistakes of some people, and some people are having issues due to outdated chipset drivers. They're having black screens and so on. So this is a very good way that AMD has to keep people updated and without issues. Great thing they did here. The software itself also changed a bit, and I noticed that the software scrolling is now smooth. While in some previous driver versions, while we were scrolling through the graphics section, the display section and so on, the scrolling was kind of stuttery. It was like it was scrolling at 30 or 20 FPS, and now it is smooth. The scrolling is very smooth, and the only part where I didn't see smooth scrolling was on the performance tab. Every other tab kind of had smooth scrolling, and that's very good to me. If you're using an RX 9070 series, yeah, the layout also changed a bit. Now you have the AI tab, which only shows the AI software that you have in your computer, kind of the same way that we have the Games tab. Now we have the AI tab. On that same AI tab, you have the AI applications, and you have the AI chat that you can use. So you go to AI, the chat, and you can use the chat right there. It's simple as it can be. On top of that, of course, we have Radeon Image Sharpening 2 that I will be able to test, and I also heard that the AMD voice suppression was also improved with AI. So there's another thing that I have to look into. And for the good of all people, we have AFMF 2.1. Now AFMF 2.1 works for the Radeon RX 6000, 7000, and 9000. And if you don't really know what AFMF 2.1 is, AMD Fluid Motion Frames 2.1, it kind of generates frames. It is a frame generation technique outside of the game, meaning that it doesn't really care about which game you're playing, it will just work. It doesn't really have the same latency or the same image fidelity as an in-game frame generation technique, but it is very nice. And with the 2.1, it actually improved in terms of quality, because lossless scaling was much better when we were talking about lossless scaling versus 2.0. And I believe that in terms of quality, lossless scaling is still better, and has more features and so on. But since this is a feature inside the AMD software, it is very good to see it improving. And as you can see here, passing right now on the screen, AMD showed some side-by-side comparisons, and it seems to be improving much more in terms of temporal stability, temporal tracking, and so on. It seems to be much better, and that's great. I will be testing FSR 2.1 as well, so yeah, just wait for it. And I guess that's it. So we have FSR4, we have several things, we have new layouts, we have the install manager, we have AMD inspector, we have Radeon Image Sharpening 2, we have AFMF 2.1, we have better voice suppression, we have slightly better performance in some scenarios like in Alan Wake 2, and we have a major AI performance increase for the Radeon RX 7000 series. So it's a win-win situation in these drivers, and so far they've been pretty stable. Pretty stable for this card, pretty stable for the others. So let me know in the comment section if these drivers are also stable for you, and let me know in the comment section if Delta Force is now working correctly or not. And that's all for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and sorry for anything. My brain is actually quite slow because I'm really tired. I've been working my ass off these days with lots of videos, lots of editing, lots of testing. Yeah, and I need sleep. Lots of sleep now. But once again, I really like what I do, so it's kind of a win-win. Thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next video. Again, leave your comment in the comment section. Let me and let us, the community, know what are your experiences, what are your issues, what made things work correctly. Just let us know in the comment section so we can help each other. Thank you very much and see you in the next video. Cheers.
Let's dive in. We have plenty to talk about.
Life's a funny thing. You spend all your time wishing and hoping and dreaming for something, and then, bam!
Go away, Mutt. You get nothing from me.